Hi, some of you might remember last year I made a video on what's in my bag. And part of what was in my bag were very old Tommy Armour irons, at least 20 years old. I recently upgraded to Cleveland irons, and in this video I'll show you 5 observations, 5 experiences that I've had with these new irons. So before we get there, please don't forget to subscribe. If you like this video, click on the like or maybe the bell. That would be much appreciated. So, the 5 observations with my new UHX launcher clubs from Cleveland. By the way, I did not do any fitting. That might be interesting. I just followed the advice of the pro with whom I sometimes have lessons, and who said that with my swing I should start upgrading a bit and not use these terribly old clubs anymore on offer. So I thought, well, why not? Clubs are always better than the player, and let's see how they are. And I've played 2 rounds with them so far, and I must say I really like them. So, my 5 observations. The first one is the shaft. I now have senior shafts. This one is from a make that is called Miyazaki, and the senior shaft is well, a little bit more flexible, but if I compare them to my Tommy Armour shaft, if I bend that with my hand, it doesn't seem to be that different. So, and also while playing, I don't really feel it, but I can really bend this a little bit more. Maybe it has an effect. Okay. So the second observation is that for the same type of club, the lofts are different. So let's take here the 7 iron, for instance. This is a 7 iron, and the Cleveland has a 30-degree loft, whereas the Tommy Armour has a 33-degree loft. And that is similar for other clubs as well. So with the 7 iron, it's 30 for the Cleveland and 33 for the Tommy Armour. However, for the pitching wedge, the lofts are the same. So both the Cleveland as well as the Tommy Armour have 44 degrees of loft for the pitching wedge. The 6 iron is also different. You have 26 degrees of loft on the Cleveland and almost 30, 29.5 degrees of loft on the Tommy Armour. So that is kind of, and it continues like that. So there are slight differences in loft for the same number of club. So that, of course, has an effect on the distances, I would think. But I'll talk about that later. The next big difference is the sole. So this part here at the bottom of the club. I'll get closer. I don't know if you can see it. So here, if I put the 2 club heads side by side, you see the difference. This Tommy Armour has a very thin sole. It's a very small area that will actually touch the ground when you hit the golf ball, whereas this Cleveland has a very wide sole. And if I look around, it seems that all modern clubs, or most modern clubs, have this sort of wider sole, which makes it easier and stabilizes the club head through the swing, through the impact, and it increases the precision of the golf swing, I think. I don't know to what degree this might have an effect on how you can shape the ball. Possibly with a smaller sole, you can twist the club head more easily. I don't know. I'm not that good a player that I really shape the balls as I want to do it. So now the 4th observation, which is the shape of the club head. that is really quite interesting, because in these Cleveland clubs, they are not the same, whereas in these Tommy Armour clubs, these old ones, it doesn't really matter if you take a pitching wedge or an 8-iron or a 7-iron. They all have the same shape here in the back. So the actual impact zone, the area where the club hits the ball, is quite thin. And then, of course, here you have the sole, and they're the same throughout the whole range of clubs. On the other hand, the Cleveland, it depends on the type of club, of the iron. If you take the 7-iron, for instance, it's the 7-iron and the for the 7-irons and 6-irons, those which are supposed to go a little bit farther, you have almost a hollow body club head, which is a bit wider, as you can see. So the distance between the face of the club head and the back is a lot thicker than with these old clubs. And this hollow bit in it, of course, should affect the ball flight in some way. But for the pitching wedge, the 8-iron, the 9-iron, there the back is different. You see, it's here it is open. Here the back is open. So again, like with the older clubs, the part where the ball hits the club face and the back is quite thin. Now, interestingly, you would think that this provokes a completely different feel when hitting the ball, but it doesn't. It feels exactly the same, but the geometry of the club head is different throughout the set. And I suppose Cleveland thought something about it. It makes it maybe more efficient. I don't know, but that's one difference that I note. Sort of, and now for the fifth observation is, how does it actually feel when you play them? What is the difference? Well, one big difference that I noted is that the ball launches a lot higher. So also the 6-iron, for instance, remember I said that the 6-iron with the Cleveland has 26 degrees of loft. In the Tommy Armour, it has almost 30 degrees of loft. But you would think that here with the 6-iron with 26 degrees of loft, the ball does not fly as high, does not launch high, but it does. It's quite interesting. It really, it has a great ball flight and therefore also a very nice distance. There is one other point, a sixth point, which I forgot to mention at the beginning, which is the actual shape of the grooves on the club face. So that is a slight difference. The 6-iron, for instance, has, I don't know if you can see it here, has these normal grooves as well as micro grooves. That clearly affects the way how the ball is hit and what kind of spin that you can give to the ball. Whereas the pitching wedge, for instance, here, or also the 9-iron and 8-iron, have kind of normal grooves and do not have these micro grooves. But anyway, the surface, the actual surface, seems to be a little bit rougher. Again, this is something that you don't notice when you hit the ball, so you can just normally swing the club, and this club will do with the ball pretty much what you want to do. I notice more precision. I have the impression that I can control the ball a little bit better, and especially in par threes when I played, where before I was never quite sure whether I would actually reach the green or get close to the flag. These clubs here gave me a pretty much dead straight ball flight at the distance that I hoped for. They're a little bit longer. They go farther than my Tommy Armour. Yeah, apart from that, of course, in my bag I have a gap wedge, an Acuity, which is kind of a run-of-the-mill club, and I have a Callaway sand wedge. I also purchased a driver, but it's also a Cleveland driver. Not so happy with it yet. Could be that here the senior shaft feels very whippy, maybe too whippy for me, and I'm not controlling it as well yet. But on that I might make another report. So thank you very much for watching, and hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.